This information you are about to hear and perhaps view, these are not necessarily the thoughts or the ideas of Gary C.Clement or the Gary Clement Radio Show podcast. We are in no way, shape, or form affiliated with the parties this story is about or was interviewed for. Parts of this content may not be owned by or the property of the Gary Clement Radio Show podcast, G2 Network Media, or any other company we are affiliated with, and this information is strictly the opinion of those being interviewed. This content is for information purposes only, and although we may make reference to various news stories, we share our own independent beliefs about the content and provide our own opinions. Please enjoy the information. Haard News, hosted by Gary C.Clement. Today's news is made up of so many different issues, and it's hard to keep up. But we all know it's important to keep law enforcement in the community and society, as many in America have a problem doing the right thing. Growing up, my mother always said it's easy to do right, but so many people choose wrong, and once you get in trouble, it's very hard to get out of it. Haard News will tackle all issues that break the barriers of justice for all, freedom for all, and simply a good and strong meaning of democracy for all. The show covers politics, crime, gun violence in our communities, and will introduce guests who have a personal stake in these issues. So without further ado, please enjoy this week of Haard News, hosted by Gary C. Clement. Hello, my name is Gary C. Clement, and welcome to Haard News. Today on the show, we are privileged to have Grammy Award-winning singer, songwriter, actress, activist, and author, Ms. Florence LaRue of the legendary group The Fifth Dimension. Beyond all of her accomplishments, she's the author of a new book entitled Grace in the Second Act, A Guide to Aging Gracefully. And also on this call, we have my co-host, Mr. Ron Dove. How are you all this morning?
I am blessed and highly favored, sir.
Great to be alive.
Yes, Lord.
Okay. So first of all, Ms. LaRue, please explain the title of your book to us and just tell us exactly why it took you so long to write a book, please.
Well, the title of the book is Grace in Your Second Act, and the Guide to Aging Gracefully. It's funny because I was going to call it, Growing Old Gracefully, and I was saying, don't use the word old. I said, honey, there's nothing wrong with old because, some of the people I know they said use mature. Some of the people I know are just plain old. They aren't mature. But anyway, we're all going to age. And I wanted people, especially women, to enjoy aging and instead of fearing it. There's so much in our society, so much emphasis placed on youth and beauty, and we're all going to get older. And I want to encourage people to live, don't just exist. During Christmas times, I would go to some of these senior homes and sing for them. And I noticed that people were lying in bed with no energy, some of them with illnesses that they could have avoided had they taken better care of themselves. And also, I want to let people know that it's never too late to start taking care of yourself mentally, physically, and spiritually.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Because I was going to ask you, as far as your, physical looks or whatnot, from pictures that I have here, you still look young. So, how, what's your secret there?
Well, first of all, I've been blessed, and God takes care of me, and I take care of myself. People pray and say, "Oh, I have faith. God's going to do this." Yes, God will do it, but you have to do your part. So I'm doing my part. I do take care of myself mentally, physically, and spiritually by having faith. Faith without works is no good. So my works, I watch what I eat. I eat well. I eat organically. I exercise. As a matter of fact, I just got back from my walk. Every day I walk 1 to 2 miles. I used to do a lot more, but since I had 2 hip replacements and 1 knee replacement, my doctor said, "Hey, take it easy. I know you can do it, but just relax." And I'm blessed to still do all the choreography as I continue to tour with the Fifth Dimension. So I exercise, I stretch, and I do things that are it's really common sense. People say, "Oh, I want to look like you." I said, "No, first of all, you don't want to look like me. You want to be your best. And second of all, you've got to put in the work. It takes work." When I first get up, First thing I do is my prayers. Second thing I do is my exercise. And I make this a habit. And therefore, it's done. Because if I wait, for later in the day, you get busy. You say, oh, I don't have time. You have to take time for God and for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Ron, you were going to say something?
Yeah, no, I like what she says, I mean, and I think I agree with what just what she says. I mean, we take this number of age, and we here, and especially in America, and I guess other countries too, and once we measure people by a number, which is so unfair because I've been around. I'm also involved in music. In fact, one of the musicians that I know who plays in the Sunrise Band, who's actually the leader, Marshall Allen, is 19. I think he's 99 years, and he's almost 100. And
wow!
Now they don't live too far from me, and sometimes I go over there, whatever, But I went over to see Marshall and talk with him because it was around his birthday time. And his girlfriend came over.
There's hope for me.
Yeah, his girlfriend came over, and he was just smiling and everything. And Marshall would walk from his house up on Germantown Avenue up to where we had the Federal Credit Union Bank, which is about approximately, I would say, about 2 miles, and back. And his 90s, and you try to give him. You see him walking on the street, you want to give him a ride. He said, "No, I'm good. and see, at my age, I'm 84, and when I see somebody who is older than me and functioning, and he's the leader of the Sunrise Band. Now,
God. Now, excuse me, how old is his girlfriend?
Well, you know what? I didn't try that, but I was looking at her kind of hard now, because but I would say she's about I would say she was maybe in her 60s,
Oh.
I mean, he might be a cradle snatcher there, but he functions, and he right at this point he is the leader of the band because he goes all the way back to the time of Sunrise. But not just that, when you read the Bible, you talk about people lived 120, people live 900, Methuselah lived 900 years. I said, wait a minute, what's up with this years thing? 100 and some years old, and then when you see somebody 100 that's looking good, you say, wow. But then again,
and these days, with all of the medical things we have, more people are living to be at 100 years old.
Well, yeah, that's true. And the haters are getting tired of older people because they figure, they're living too long, with all this health medicines and stuff that we have. They want to kind of push you aside,
Right.
But the gap, I think there's a gap between the youth and the older people, because I was talking to, we had a podcast with one of the guys, a young neighborhood activist, and he was talking about what he thought that older people was not doing with the youth, and they were not out and the mix out there with trying to make things better. And so he kind of pushed aside, to a certain extent, but I was saying to him, if you are brilliant at a young age, right, so when you get old, you still have all those things in you that you had when you were young.
Right, but excuse me, but this is the fault of both ages. First of all, the young people are not taught to respect the older people, and the older people are not willing to learn new things, such as the computer and things like that. So it takes both ages have to work together.
Exactly, I agree. Yeah. No, I totally agree, because I have some friends. One of my friends, she was a U.S. assistant attorney. Another one, she was a judge. And when we tried to do Zoom, they seem like they're almost handicapped because they can't do it. They have a lot of not intelligence, but they just seem like they accepted the fact that they got to a certain point, and they just feel like, well, they give up. They just say, I'm not going to.
Right, and that's one thing I talk about in my book, that you have to continue learning, learning new things.
Yes, ma'am.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And continue growing. That's part of living and not existing.
Right.
And I think that's what keeps the youth in a person, because it's what's inside that person that really vibrates to the outside.
Right.
Okay. So, Miss LaRue, I don't mean to cut that off, but like we kind of need to get through this. Okay. So, first of all, when you got started in the business, the resources were minimum. Everything was different. We didn't have the internet or social media. In today's world, people are living longer. Technology is growing faster than we can imagine. What do you miss about the past?
I miss some of the honesty, some of the I can't think of the right word, but for lack of a better word, I'll say friendliness. People and respect. People are getting the business to make a quick dollar, and they don't really respect the business or other people. And that's one thing that I miss, and I try to continue with the Fifth Dimension.
I see. Okay. And your music, like you said, from that time was actually this timeless. It's stuff that, you all played, I guess, back in the 50s and 60s. And here it is today. You can still listen, and there's a message behind it. What do you miss in regards to this music now? Talk a little bit about the music you're hearing now compared to then.
Well, I miss that most of the music is very explicit. I also miss the lack of what's the word? Well, like for instance, the young ladies in the business, the way they dress, it's so unnecessary, and some of it reaches the point of being vulgar. I mean, there's a difference in sensuality and sexy, and it depends on what you're trying to say with your music. In the Fifth Dimension, we're trying to say, as we said in Aquarius, harmony, understanding, and love, and bringing the races and the ages together, and to promote love and spirituality. You can promote spirituality without saying God or Jesus, because I respect people of all different religions. But there's a lack of a certain spirituality in the music.
I see. Okay. Being an activist, tell me about your, idea or your turn, your chances in doing that back in the day. What were some of the things that you participated in as an activist?
Well, we didn't actually participate because we didn't have a lot of time, but we performed in places where there was not one black face in the audience. And it was because a lot of black people thought that we were a white group. Then when they discovered that we were not a white group, they thought we were trying to be a white group, which we were not. We were just using the voices that God gave us. I always wanted to sound what people expected black people to sound like. But black people sing opera. They sing every country, everything. And as a matter of fact, in my attempt to sound blacker, I put a song in the show, I'm Coming Home. I think it was the Spinners. And I tried to sound like them. It was the worst thing you've ever heard because I didn't have that kind of voice. And then one day I heard Johnny Mathis singing the same song, and it was great, but it sounded like Johnny Mathis. And that's when the Lord told me, look, there's one Aretha Franklin, there's one Florence LaRue. You do the best that you can with what I gave you.
Right. Okay. Now, growing up, again, like I said, I can hear that you had a lot of, spiritual, upbringing or whatnot in your life. Talk a little bit about that as far as being a little girl and having to grow up in the church and, coming forward.
Well, I grew up in the church, and like a lot of children, I thought, oh, this is so silly, but I went to church, Sunday school every Sunday. As a matter of fact, I even taught Sunday school. But I wasn't really, I didn't really know the Lord. I knew about the Lord. And as I got older, I became what I call a closet Christian because I didn't want people to think, oh, there's Miss Christian, Miss Goody Two-Shoes. But let me tell you, the Lord had my back all the way through, and I came to know the Lord, and He has saved me many times, especially being in the entertainment field. I always had a lot of energy. So people just assumed that I used drugs. I mean, I had people hand me little packs of Coke on stage, and I would just flush it and throw it away. I've been in situations where I didn't know. for instance, when I came from a small town in Pennsylvania, Glenside, to California, I went to a party, and it was a buffet, and they passed around the plates. And I said, "Oh, wait, this plate's dirty. It's got dust on it." I didn't know anything about Coke, so I was put in situations where the Lord saved me, and just really blessed me to live a certain type of life.
Yes, ma'am. I
Wonderful.
understand. Wow. Okay. So as you've gotten older and, actually, learn more and more, I guess, about the industry, um, how did, you change, or how did the industry change you to become, who you are today compared to who you were going into the game?
Well, thank God I did not allow the industry to change me. As a matter of fact, I left a manager because he wanted me to wear something that I thought was inappropriate. But God is the one who's helped me to change myself. God doesn't change us. We change ourselves, but He is there, and He gives us choices. And I'm blessed that I didn't get involved in the drugs, because I had friends who did, and some of them are no longer living. But as I said, my spiritual, and I'm not religious, because I say God wants spiritual fruits, not religious nuts. So I don't go around, preaching to people. But there are ways people learn more from the way you act and what you do than what you say.
Right. Yes, ma'am. Okay. You and your group, the Fifth Dimension, won 6 Grammy Awards, and you've had the opportunity to work in theater and won numerous awards. To start over, would you do anything differently?
Yes, there are things I would do differently. First of all, I've had more. I'd be more secure in my own talents. I would not be afraid to share my spirituality, and I would have even more fun. For instance, when I wrote the book Grace in Your Second Act, it's a fun book to read. It's not a tell-all, but it's not a you should do this, you should do that. It's fun. I talk about organizing your closet for the ladies, and how to dress for that special occasion, makeup and skincare, and fun things. So it's also was endorsed by Bishop Kenneth Omer from California, and he endorsed it, and he says, "Men, buy it for the lady in your life and read it for yourself." So it's not just a book for women; it's an easy, fun read. You can get it on Amazon, and it's for everybody, young and old. I think my next book may be Preparing for Your Second Act, because a lot of us don't prepare for our senior years. So the first thing we think about is preparing financially, which is important, but we also need to prepare spiritually and physically by being healthy, because there's nothing. I don't think there would be anything worse than being old and sick, or old and you can't walk. You can't walk because you didn't take care of your bones and eat right.
Right. I got you. Okay. And
It's like your friend who's in his 90s. He's walking. He's taking care of his body. He probably eats right.
Yeah, and one of the things that I noticed that he does now, and he's got some habits, because he puffs on his little cigarillos or whatever. But one thing he does is walk. I mean, he does a lot of walking, and I know sometimes some of the guys kind of worry about him walking,
But that's the best exercise you can do, because it uses the whole body. I have to tell you a little story. There was this lady would walk by. I think she lived in North Carolina, and she'd walk by this house every month. She'd see this old man on the porch. He'd be sitting there drinking his whiskey and smoking a cigarette. So one day she asked him, she says, "You're there every day. And what do you do?" He said, "Well, I smoke at least a pack a day. I drink a quart of whiskey a day, and I enjoy life." She said, "Wow." She said, "How old are you?" He said, 21.
Well, can I ask you a question? I know you work some of the people that you worked with, Davis and his wife, the other lady. Do you have? I guess you had some interesting, experiences together. You had some interesting stories or things that happened during your tours and everything.
I think for me, one of the most exciting things for me was, of course, touring with Frank Sinatra. But another very memorable experience is when the Fifth Dimension was sent to Eastern Europe by the State Department to represent the United States. And this was when Eastern Europe was still under the red flag, was still communist. And at our show, there were guards backstage, with dogs to make sure that the people didn't go wild and everything. But at the end of the show, the people rushed the stage, and we were scared. We didn't know what was going to happen. But they wanted to touch us because we were their touch to their connection to the free world. And it showed me how important our music was, how music really affects people.
Wow.
And since then, I've been careful of the lyrics that I sing, and I really began to appreciate what our music has done. As I said, it's brought people together. We've sung at the White House. We've just been blessed to really I see people old and young, black and white in our audiences having fun together, and that's what we need more of this country.
And did you, when you sang at the White House, did you get a chance to speak a few words to the president? Or?
Well, we sang. Well, the one time it was for all the governors of the different states, and yes, we did get to speak with the president, and we have photos. My biggest regret in my career is that we did not get to sing for President Obama. We never did. You're right.
Wow. Yes, ma'am.
And even though sometimes the president may not have been the one of our choice, it was still an honor to sing at the White House, to representing the United States.
Interesting.
Absolutely. Okay, cool. So, were there times when traveling, because I know that you were a mother that, you had to leave your kids and stuff behind, how did they, deal with that? The mom was on the road all the time.
That's another regret that I have. That's one thing I would do over. I would put my career aside till my son got older, because my son traveled with me when he was 3 months old. His first passport was to Japan. And I took him everywhere, and I took a nurse with me to watch him while I was performing. But when he went to school, I, left him at home, and I had my aunt live with me, and his father was there too, to take care of him. But I do miss time not spent with my son. I have a letter that I saved, and I share it with mothers. When he was he was quite young, and he used to tease me and call me Santa Mom, because he knew about Santa Claus. And he said, the letter said, "Dear Santa Mom, for Christmas I want," and he listed about 10 really expensive things. And at the end he says, "But I give them all up for more time with my mommy."
Wow.
And because, see, mothers don't realize, I was trying to give him things I didn't have when I was younger, because we didn't have the finances. But children don't need things, they need your time.
Absolutely. Right. So now that you have grandchildren, do you do more to try to, spend more time with them to make up for lost time?
Not only do I have grandchildren, I have great-grandchildren. And my son and I are very close. And yes, we do try to spend more time together.
Just in closing, your advice or whatnot to young women now that, want a stellar career like you've had, what would you leave with them?
I would say, know your priorities: God, family, career. Be yourself. Do the best to be the best you that you can, and learn about business. No matter what you do, learn about business.
Good point.
And prepare for your second act.
Good point.
Wonderful. Okay, great. And for anyone that's looking for you on social media, do you have your social media handles? Can you give that information?
I do, FlorenceLaRue.com, which needs to be updated. I'm looking for a young person, to help me with that, because although I know the internet, I still am quite busy and don't spend enough time refreshing it. But they can find me on FlorenceLaRue.com, yes.
We really do appreciate our guest who participated in this episode, and we hope you learned something that will bless your day and your life. For all who are interested in learning more about the Gary Clement Radio Show podcast, please visit www.amazon.com and order my book, The Gary Clement Radio Show, When Strong Afro-American Men and Women Stand Up. It covers everything about us and features a variety of Afro-American personalities who speak out about the importance of education and literacy in the Black community. Well, we thank you for tuning into our podcast. Please send us your email address so we can contact you when we have new releases and new episodes and new projects as well. You can reach us at gccpresents@yahoo.com. And also, if you're interested in submitting any materials or want to get in touch with us, please do so by simply sending an email to gccpresents@yahoo.com. That's G as in Gary, C as in Charlie, C as in Charlie, presents@yahoo.com. So until next time, do take care. And this is a G-Tube Network media production.